Welcome to the DeFi Standard. This is Patty XRP, and
Mickey B. Fresh.
I love how that car horn literally just started perfectly for you to intro.
That's always the best.
Oh yeah, that works
It's about the
perfect.
outdoor summer streams here, We're
Yeah,
out in nature, outdoors. It's very nice. It's pleasant. And it's hot.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I like
So,
the hot weather. You can see we got the sun background too for this live stream, so that works
yes, we
really
do
well.
have the sun background. That was very nice. Great job, Dale, on the thumbnail. Uh, and what do we got today, Patty? So we dug through these patents that Crypto Eddie brought out the last few days ago. So let's really dive into that and see what we got. And that's different from the current standing of ODL. So how does these patents really explain what the future of ODL is going to bring?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just start off with basically the patent is titled a net, and this is from Ripple Labs. Put up this patent, and it's an add-on to the original ODL exchange patent from back in 2019. So this is addition onto that, and they call it a network computing system implementing on-demand liquidity to facilitate direct cross-medium transactions. And with this, their description of it is a computing system can provide on demand liquidity for cross medium transactions using direct wallet to wallet transfers of digital currency. The system can acquire exchange rate information from multiple sources and generate a guaranteed exchange rate and trade instructions to the originating and recipient clients to execute the transaction. Um, so on its face here, Mickey, it definitely kind of rings a bell with atomic swapping, which interestingly enough, we had been talking a lot about in regards to PolySign. Um, so I think like before we get into exactly what's different about this one, Mickey, would you give everybody a refresher on how the exchange ODL model works?
Yeah, so right now, the exchange ODL model works. Typically, a entity or a originator would have to go to an exchange, purchase XRP from it, which is the first mile. So you have to go from fiat to XRP. And then that exchange sends it over to another exchange over the XRP ledger. And then there's the transaction from XRP to fiat. And then that last mile payout. So the first and last mile are always the most difficult. In this scenario here, you could explain how they changed this model and they kind of replaced the exchanges with wallets. Now, granted, the exchanges do have wallets presently, but it brings everyone's assets into one wallet. So all the market makers, all the retail users, they all use the same wallets of Coinbase, of Bitstamp. So when you see a transaction go over the ledger, it's like 500 million XRP wired by Bitstamp to this exchange. It's not necessarily the exchange doing it. It's who's using their wallets. And now this really, if you want to go into it, this is where the wallets and the patent changes, right? So how does it work in this patent?
Cool. Yeah. So, like we just kind of prefaced, they're looking for direct wallet to wallet transfers. So you could imagine, it could be two enterprises that got to make a cross border transfer. It could be, two banks. It could be two exchanges. It could be any entity you want. And they can plug into the XRPL, with their XRP wallet. And essentially, this computing system will allow you to transfer from any originating value medium to a cryptocurrency, which on the XRPL is the native asset XRP, and then to a destination value medium. And basically, it can implement an exchange of any type of value. So this could be a cryptocurrency, fiat. It could be for commodities. It could be for bonds. It could be for stocks. Who knows? It could be for some kind of NFT asset on the XRP ledger in the future. So this is kind of, I think, where we start seeing the internet of value around the XRP ledger starting to come together more. And one of the really nice features, which opens up a ton of questions for me, at least, Mickey, is that in those kind of exchange rate quotes that they would give to the recipient and the sender, it'll have like a slippage threshold. So if during the transaction there is, exchange rate volatility and the slippage falls outside of the bounds set by the transaction quota, there will be basically a slippage pool that will basically do an automatic top up for either the recipient or the sender, whichever one was harmed by the volatility in the exchange rate. So they would basically be, I don't know if you want to say reimbursed for anything that falls below that rate. So my question is, where is this slippage pool balance going to be living? Is it just going to be a wallet on the XRP ledger? Is it possibly something that would be a pool in a side chain that has smart contracts on it?
Mm.
Could it be operated by something off chain, that's keeping an eye on that? And then, if this is going to be, we don't necessarily know what this slippage pool would be, what assets would be full of. I mean, I would probably speculate XRP. So, is that going to be Ripple's current XRP holdings that they have? Is it something they could use the XRP escrow for in the future? So, Mickey, I'll turn it over to you for a few thoughts on that.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds like when you say slippage ratio like that, if anyone used Flare Finance's beta, knew that there was a slippage
Oh, Mickey, did you just mute yourself?
slippage ratio.
There you
Yeah, I did. It was just loud. There was a slippage ratio that you had when you went into that pool. It would see how much slippage there is. So that kind of sounds similar to what this patent is describing in there. So we could see some kind of liquidity pool that uses the escrow. And this is something you and I have been saying for months on this YouTube channel about how the escrow is going to be used for other reasons besides just supporting Ripple's business operations and to sell and for them to profit. The escrow is utility. This is what it allows, that seigniorage of being able to use that XRP out of escrow could cover the slippage costs for the actual network itself. And this is one of the things that could be set up. Conditions can be met with these smart contracts. So these wallets can be controlled by smart contracts themselves too, through a sidechain. That's absolutely possible. And that's kind of what, if anyone watched some of the old videos that I've had on this channel from Codius, that's the idea, is the smart programs, the smart contracts are designed. And if you read through Codius's actual white paper, it says the managing of wallets. And that's kind of what this patent is kind of about. It's managing the wallets of the ODL and how to top them up when needed. And it also goes into, we'll go into next here, Patty, is the dynamic pricing.
Yeah,
that's available.
Absolutely.
So let's go into that next.
Yeah, so two different things they list in the new part of the patent, and one of them was that the computing system can perform dynamic exchange rate lookups. So that's kind of like a live lookup whenever the quote's being sent out. And then also the transaction service, which, I would maybe liken probably to RippleNet or something, whatever, on-demand liquidity, what they want to call it. That actually has the ability to maintain its own live exchange rate database, and that could pull data from central banks, institutional banks, commodity stock exchanges, etc. So multiple areas. So, that definitely opens up some more questions to me is,
It
that
sounds like oracles.
yeah, the XRP ledger doesn't really have like a native Oracle system. So like that's where, Codius oracles, you can maybe think of that. I don't know if they could come up with some other system, or maybe that's something that could be implemented on a side chain at some point, is some kind of Oracle system. So
well, you do have the XRP ledger's DEX price feed,
yeah, I guess
which
we
is
could
kind
use
of like
that.
a main price feed. As long as you have the fiat pairing with it, it could come from the XRP ledger DEX, and there could be multiple order books just around the XRP ledger DEX. And that's one thing we could see here going into the future. I mean, these are all, another thing is Ripple recently had a job description that said we have a new product coming to RippleNet. Now remember, RippleNet is like a platform. ODL is an application. XVIA, these are all applications that are going to get built on RippleNet. RippleNet is not, and I repeat this, not just a messaging system. It's a platform and it's a network. And on top of that, applications are built. ODL is one of those applications. And we could see like an Oracle system of price feed is another application to bring in accurate price feeds for this dynamic system. Because you need accuracy on the price feeds, because you're never going to know, okay, I want to send into Japanese yen. Well, what's the price of XRP to Japanese yen right now? And I think this is already built on RippleNet. You have to have the price feeds anyway. So when somebody wants to send a transaction, it's all automated right through to the exchange and the other exchange on the outbound transaction right now. It's all just atomic in that way. It's not necessarily an atomic. It is atomic swaps because it's going from fiat to XRP to fiat. Now, Quarter Settler does not do that. So I just definitely want to make this clear here, because there was so much confusion recently with Quarter Settler. Quarter Settler does not do what ODL does. Quarter Settler just verifies a transaction. Like if I sent Patty XRP right now and I wanted to pay for something on the Quarter network, that's all it does. It verifies my payment to Patty over the XRP ledger at a certain price fee. That's all. But what ODL does is like really the next level. It's going between different currencies and it's doing that in an atomic way. Now, what this patent really does is it takes many wallets. And I think this really does go into the multi-party computation thing here, because I think they plan on eventually having different types of wallets where standard custody, for example, this is just, a little speculative here, but I think it's on point because SBI has been pushing the multi-party computation wallets. You go right on their website, SBI Digital Asset Management, right on there. It says MPC wallets, right? That's one thing that allows you to have many different wallets, hundreds of wallets standard custody could issue for their clients. Say they be banks, say they be institutions, say they be funds, say they be anybody, payment providers. They have their own wallet with their own XRP in there, right? It's segregated separately. So then they could do whatever they like over the XRP ledger. Instead of being with an exchange, it's just all lumped into one wallet then.
Absolutely. And to add on a little more context to this, so about a few weeks ago, we had the SEC come out and basically post, I guess, testimony from the MoneyGram CFO, who in that testimony said that they were able to see, benefits of ODL in the speed of the transactions that were, occurring, but rather they weren't able to get any cost savings. So I'm curious if like ODL going through exchanges is more costly than, wallet to wallet transfers over the XRP ledger, which I certainly can see an argument for. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
for a fact, but I could definitely see
Well,
how just a wallet to a wallet transfer over the XRP ledger would be much more economically viable and probably produce greater cost savings than going
mhm.
through a couple exchanges.
Exactly. And this is why they came out with Ripple line of credit. It avoids that first mile problem. They could lend the XRP directly to the payment providers who are going to start sending those payments. So basically, they're topping up their wallet, right? They're lending them XRP, and now they start with XRP. So now you're just sending it from the wallet to wherever it's got to go to. You're kind of bypassing the need to go to that exchange. You're just sending right over the XRP ledger, right? So I think Ripple line of credit plays a role into this too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that almost seems like it's kind of similar to the slippage pool idea. It's not the same because, it's them sourcing their funds for the transaction, but, it's Ripple providing some kind of like liquidity, which I mean,
Mm-hmm.
with the slippage pool, basically, you know, topping you up if you fell below a certain threshold. And slippage can occur when there's like not enough volume on an exchange for a transaction to go through at a relatively stable price, or just like volatility in that price during the exchange period. So, for anybody that isn't aware of that, that's also going to be something with liquidity pools, like you were talking about earlier, Mickey, on Flare Finance. They basically will give you an amount that would be the worst possible transaction you would receive when going into like swapping from one asset to another one within a liquidity pool on the Flare X platform. So that's something that will apply to the DeFi space. It's just how it occurs is a little different between, an order book model of an exchange versus an automated market maker. But one other thing, Mickey, on this patent that I just kind of want to I kind of talked about earlier with the Internet of Value. We saw Jack McDonald, the CEO of PolySign, and some of the videos we've done recently talking about, being able to move between assets that aren't necessary, don't really have liquidity between each other. So that atomic swapping standpoint. And this patent is really just speaking directly to that. So definitely some similarities between what we've been hearing from PolySign and then what we're now seeing in this patent from
Well, that
Ripple.
makes sense because the co-founder of Ripple and the XRP ledger who created it is Arthur Brito.
Yeah.
He went off to start PolySign. It's not like he abandoned it. Oh, we're going to make a whole new blockchain. It's going to be separate from XRP ledger. It's going to be complementary, probably in every way possible to be able to service that. And the wallets kind of are something that when you're giving Ripple line of credit, Ripple has to give them a wallet. Then it's like, okay, here's your XRP. Okay, well, how do I hold it? So they're going to need some kind of wallet. Right now, they're using the exchanges. And there's a reason why Ripple hasn't partnered with every exchange on the planet. If that was the model that they were going to have an exchange in every corridor, they would have been partners. And there's a reason they're not, because that's not the long-term model here, is not to use all the exchanges. It's to get, better wallet structure and infrastructure set up. And PolySign is an infrastructure company, just like Ripple is an infrastructure. But PolySign says we're custody. Well, what are wallets? Wallets are custody. That's what they are. So they're for transacting and storing, not just cold storage in a mountain here. This goes beyond cold storage. They need to be able to utilize and transact these assets and different tokenized assets, XRP, in a wallet. And it needs to be a smart wallet. It can't be just a dumb wallet. It's got to be able to maneuver. It's got to be able to be tracked. It's got to be able to handle price feeds and all different scenarios that come up in the future. It has to be future proof. And right now, a lot of the wallets are not future proof. It's like you get an account with Coinbase. Okay, now all my assets go in there with everybody else's. That's not really, a white glove solution by any means.
Yep, absolutely, Mickey.
And PolySign's more like a white glove solution. You get an actual wallet, you'll have permissions on it, there'll be security on it, there'll be insurance on it, but you're able to utilize it as yours or as your client, as an institution or a payment provider. So it gives more flexibility too in the future. And maybe this will work its way down to retail in the future.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm really hoping that I think eventually it will. I think there's definitely a market to have multi-party computation like wallets built in that regard where you don't have to worry about your private key being stored by, one party necessarily and then trusting them to hold your assets. We can have the private key split up and then you could also get insurance on your assets and have that be managed by a set of parties doing that. So to me, that's like I think that'd be a very sought after application, especially for, the less
Mhm.
than like super hardcore crypto people.
Exactly. And if it could connect to our bank accounts, I mean, that's what we need. We need really, that's what the exchanges provide. They allow you that gateway to your bank account or to your PayPal account, where if we could get just a wallet separate from an exchange, there's no reason it needs to be with an exchange. That just happens to have a trading platform there. But what if you want a wallet that connects you to all the DeFi, but you want all the safety and security of an exchange wallet, a custodial wallet? So that's why I think there's a market for in the future. There's absolutely in the institutional side, because the exchange model just doesn't work for institutions right now. And Jack McDonald said that the current market infrastructure just doesn't work with these exchanges. So it really doesn't work for retail either. It's like we're either stuck with fully self-custody and we got to do everything, store our private key, handle it, or we got to go with an exchange. Well, what about in the middle here? And I think that's where we're going to go in the near future, like very near future.
Yep, absolutely. And I think the main points to take home here is that this new addition to the ODL patent is an evolution on, the exchange ODL model and what I personally think is a much more powerful model than the original, just hopping between exchanges to get to the end party. I think doing everything from wallets on the XRP ledger will provide more cost savings and eventually more functionality. That way, as we see side chains and all that built out, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, just think about it. You could have, a wallet and then connected to that wallet could be a side chain that is, something that some private company is doing there. And then they have their little gateway onto the XRP ledger and then can now conduct, ODL transfers over it and things like that. So we're really seeing, I think, the XRP ledger advance and grow with like the changes in technology that we've seen over the past couple of years. So for me, it's really exciting, but we definitely are going to have to see what else that Ripple's going to come out with, as they
Yes.
kind of have this being built out, or like, is it something they already have the functionality to do? I don't know for sure, but
I think they're a little ahead on RippleNet than they make it seem. And even
yeah,
with
that would make sense.
standard custody is not like, oh, it's just live. It's been in stealth. It's been live for the past year or two, probably. How did they get the trust license in New York if you're not live? They obviously were live with customers utilizing this already. They're just not putting out publicly. So to add on here, we're long past the 2018 Shane Ellis days. All right. And I know many of you who have followed me maybe thought, oh, we used to talk about the Shane Ellis. Well, that's out the window, like out the window. That doesn't apply anymore. We're long past that because as you could see, the technology doesn't just use exchanges. And that was years ago. Now we're into where a lot of these transactions will happen OTC, and people think OTC doesn't move the market. Well, it absolutely does move the market because it's supply and demand. Nobody's going to sell something not on OTC that's going to be lower than the market price on exchanges. It's always going to be higher. So it's still supply and demand. That was the biggest, I think, myth and fallacy was that, oh, OTC doesn't affect the market. It absolutely affects the market. And we're going to see more of that going on behind the scenes because that's where the future of this market infrastructure is. It's not in siloed exchanges. And it's almost like Ripple's breaking down the walls with this by creating wallets that don't need to be the exchanges. So it kind of forces the exchanges to integrate more with the XRP ledger. And I think that's a good thing moving forward. And you're right, it is an advancement of the ODL, which originally was XRapid. So it's XRapid, ODL, and now ODL like 2.0. And it's going to keep evolving over the next years. Every year, they're probably going to make more advancements, more advancements. There's never going to be one way and that's it, and we're done. It's always going to keep evolving.
Yeah, I mean, I just think ultimately going back to that David Schwartz tweet about, multiple competitive global pools of liquidity, like it's, how do we get there,
Mm-hmm.
basically? Like, being able to have all these different assets that are illiquid with each other and move between them in a way that would make it seem as easy as, paying for your lunch with a debit card or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of the path to get there because as soon as we can kind of unlock or, make some of these assets that are, like bonds or whatever that are relatively illiquid to move in and out of at times. Like if you could essentially use part of your bond, if you tokenize it up to pay for something, like you could pay with like 1% of your bond for some meal if you wanted to, or, just changing how all these assets operate differently to where it's really easy to be earning yield, but then to also, draw off that yield to, pay for your life or for your business or whatever it is. And then, when you get to the higher level with these businesses, like, they don't have to have locked up capital that's not, earning them interest. Like, how do we make all this capital more efficient, essentially?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Exactly. And using those assets that you have as collateral to borrow against. A lot of institutions like doing that too. If you're holding something that's earning yield, okay, well, can I borrow against that too? And then use the value for something else. And that's the thing that we as retail are able to do now in DeFi. So we have all the tools basically with DeFi coming of the wealthy and the rich people first. So that's why we've been saying about Flare Network. You have all these abilities on Flare Finance with Probity Vault to use your assets and borrow against them, earned yield with the liquidity pools, and set yourself up with different tools. That's what they are. DeFi is just a set of tools that you could use to benefit and set yourself up with a lot of wealth. But in the beginning, I agree. I don't think it's great to diversify too much. I'm not a fan of that. As we get more wealth, I think then you could diversify within the ecosystem that you could set up real yield streams instead of just betting on 30 horses and evening it out. I'm not into that strategy. I think you pick a few horses, you did your research, those are going to go up in value. And then within those ecosystems, you diversify as you get more wealth.
nice. And then I see a comment here from JK, and basically back on what I was talking about, the internet of value and being able to move in and out of all these assets, which, who knows how long that takes us to get to that world, but he was saying the total tax system would have to be redone for that, right? And yeah, no, absolutely. I
Yeah,
think we're very much moving into a new
forget
era
about the
where
old tax system.
yeah, exactly. It's like those it's going to have to change at some point. It's I think everybody in crypto knows for sure at this point that just with crypto that it's not very feasible for all of us. It's very difficult, even more so than, just with traditional finance taxes. So, as the speed of these transactions increases, the different types of transactions that you can do, like, you're not necessarily swapping between two assets, but like a different form of the same asset and things like that. Like, one day, all the different jurisdictions in the world are definitely going to have to iron that out. Because I think they're going to realize that they're just missing a ton of tax income that they could be getting. So it's like, how do we get those taxes back in? And, it's implementing tax reform and things like that.
Yeah,
So we'll
because
have to
right
see.
now
Yeah.
it's like the honor system. That's how it's set up right now. It's the honor system. It's what you tell them. So this has to obviously be revamped. And it's kind of pointless talking about a tax thing if you're investing in crypto. That's why we don't want to bother talking about it. I think it's a lot of opinionated, different perspectives because it is really the honor system. That's how it's set up right now. So until it changes, we're not going to talk about it here because you can deal with that with your accountant. And if you're fearful of getting the opt-in on the other 85% of your Flare airdrop, that is fine because everyone who opts out, you'll be handing your Spark directly over to those who mint FXRP. So thank you. So you should be thanking anyone who wants to opt out because they're literally handing their Spark to you if you mint FXRP. It goes directly into your hands. They're transferring the value directly. So if you see somebody on Twitter, thank them for opting out because they're giving you their Spark. So thank you, DAI, for telling people to opt out because you're giving us your Spark.
Yeah, John goes here. So Mickey, if we don't tell them, they won't know, right? It's funny
Well,
because we, we've been covering obviously Flare for a really long time, and almost to ad nauseum at this point. Even though there's still stuff that I feel like we haven't, we still need to know more about or cover more for everybody and ourselves too. It's like at this point I'm like, honestly, the more people that don't participate, it's in the early on is going to benefit me, so I'm all for it. We've put out the information there. You guys have been with us for a while. I think you guys feel the same. You guys have all put in work like to learn this system and this network, which isn't easy. I mean, you can see like the lengths that Flare has gone through to try and keep things as decentralized as possible and open to change in the future. It's not something that's easy for everybody to understand. So I'll take anybody that wants to assist us in allowing us to get a bigger stake in the network, especially in the early days.
well, absolutely. What it does is really, I think it's a brilliant mechanism to allow people to opt out because it's transferring value from dead weight. Most of those people would have probably just sold anyway. If they're fearful of getting a free asset because they might have tax implications, good, sell, out because you're going to sell anyway and you're just going to bring selling pressure. Now, instead of that selling pressure, it's just literally transferred to those people who mint FXRP, FDOGE, and FXLM. It doesn't affect the FLTC, so that's separate. But it literally transfers the value directly into our hands. I think that's a great thing because it kind of has an exponential effect. And that's what Hugo said, the whole idea and thesis behind the Flare network's distribution and mechanism design is to transfer value to the hands of those who are good participants in the network. And that's delegating your votes and minting FXRP. By minting FXRP, you're indirectly locking up Spark. You don't have to do it yourself, but you're forcing agents to lock up more Spark 2.5 times. So you're rewarded with Spark for doing that. And you get it every day while it's on the Flare network, your FXRP. And that's just a powerful thing. And when you delegate your votes, you're earning daily Spark. Those who don't do that, then they don't get a cut. So the participation rate in the beginning is going to be low. But I just thought the opt-out feature was just awesome because it's literally taking their Spark away that they're giving away. It's not like it's going to the open market or being burned. It's going into the hands of everyone who mints FXRP directly.
Yeah.
every month.
Yeah.
So every month it's released into that rewards pool.
Yeah. And so on top of that, oh, what was okay? I just went blank there, Mickey. But
It's all right.
oh,
Any
so
other questions?
I do see. Let's see. Okay, so Yuan Tang says, "Do you think that exchange will be able to help us mint FXRP, or will only be possible on wallet like Bifrost?" So right
Um,
now we know that Bifrost will facilitate that. If we're gonna see exchanges do it, I would think like somebody like BitTrue would do it, since they've kind of hopped on this horse early on and seem to, be fully embracing the the flared network. So that's somewhere I would look. We'll have to
I
see.
would. Why would you want to use an exchange though? First off, like
Well, if
if
you're
you could
just
do it,
minting an F asset, I mean, if they just let you mint it and then take it off the exchange, if they're not going to let you take it off, then it may
mm,
not be as enticing. But
yeah, that's true. But I
yeah,
mean, the Bifrost wallet's going to be very easy to use. It's just going to be a wallet. You click a button, you hit XRP, and it changes it over to FXRP. And then you use it right there. You have the wallet that's going to allow you to connect to the dApps, like to Flare Finance and Probity. The exchange most likely isn't going to connect you in a non-custodial way. So we kind of really want to get away from using the exchanges. Like you're not going to be able to get the full functionality using the exchanges. So you might be able to delegate your votes, but you'll be only able to do that through whoever the exchange wants. Remember, you give up your private keys. When you're with an exchange, they do everything for you. That's how it is right now. In the future, I think we'll have some type of hybrid, which will be in between Bifrost and in between the exchange model. But for right now, I think Bifrost and Decent, if you wanted a hardware wallet with it, Decent will allow you to do that too. Is the best option. But that's still 6 to 8 weeks after the network launches.
yeah. So that's the thing with the F asset system. There's a lot that we don't know about it, and there's stuff we're probably not going to know about it until after Flare is live, to be honest. But the fact that we have 6 to 8 weeks, just have extra patience with that part of the ecosystem, as there's more time before it comes out, so there's more time for us to learn information and all that stuff. So also, Mickey, I do remember what I was going to say on it, in addition to the Spark airdrop. So for anybody that's not familiar with finance in general, maybe you don't come from a financial background or haven't done a ton of investing in the past, there's something called time value of money, which is like probably one of the biggest like cornerstones that was drilled into my head when I was in school. Every kind of modeling and all that kind of stuff is around what's the present value of assets versus the future value of assets. And and value in the future is going to be discounted, because in the meantime you can utilize your assets to earn yield. So that means an asset that you have today is worth more than an asset you will have tomorrow, just like in a theoretical sense here, because you have the ability to earn more with that asset. So if you give up something today to receive it in the future, well, the only issue is you're missing out on all that time until that future date that you could have used to earn that. And then, as we've kind of shown with different, some of our videos, the power of compounding your assets. So have the sooner you have it, the faster you compound. And I mean, if you look at like, I guess like 401ks is one of the big things. They're like, start doing this early, because if you put in 10K when you're 22 versus putting it in at 35, like it has a lot more time to compound and be able to earn you additional money with the money you already have. So what may not seem like a lot, maybe in 5 to 10 years down the line, if you go ahead and start earning and you keep adding to that and working on it, it can become a lot more. So I just want to throw that out there. The time value money is really big.
It is. It is. That's well said, Patty. Yeah, it's mind-boggling to me that some people are debating opting out of something when you could get something for free, and then you could put that asset to work, and it comes with inbuilt yield. So of all assets, so what you're talking about there, Patty, Spark is unique because it comes with inbuilt yield. You don't even have to do anything. You don't even have to put it in an application. It literally comes with inbuilt yield attached to it that compounds every day. You'll be able to compound your Spark continuously. And it's not like you have to go trust another entity. You literally could do it self-custody from your Bifrost wallet in your own possession and just earn this Spark. It auto delegates for you and it auto compounds for you. It's literally probably the easiest way to earn yield of any of the top assets. You don't have to stake it. You don't have to give it up. You don't have to go to a Nexo or Celsius. You literally have possession of it and you just earn more of it. I mean, what better setup is that? I mean, it's just mind-boggling that there's discussions of worrying about tax implications and all this other stuff, but you fail to mention that, hey, this asset comes with inbuilt yield. XRP doesn't do that. BTC doesn't do that. Ethereum 2.0 doesn't even do that unless you give up custody of it.
Yeah,
So I think that's
absolutely.
just a powerful component. And Hugo has pointed this out, but for some reason, like the community's just not grasping how powerful it is that an asset comes with inbuilt yield. And like you just said, it was drilled to you throughout all of college about the time, what is it called?
Time value of money. Yeah.
Time value of money is important. And now this is coming with yield. So if you lent your Spark out, you should get a really high yield for it because it comes with yield, right?
Yes, absolutely. And,
Exactly.
kind of to add to this, why would somebody want to opt out of the airdrop? So some of the like examples I've seen, basically what, you would be worried about is if, let's say you receive, your Spark airdrop and, you have to pay income
There's
taxes,
no
which,
reason.
yeah. So let's just say in a world where you absolutely have to pay income taxes on your airdrop, even though I've seen many schemes at this point put out there that you could get out of doing it, let alone if you just go with the Flare Network's advice that they've received from their tax consultancies. But throwing all that aside, let's say we're in a world where we 100% have to pay income taxes on the Spark airdrop. If you receive a Spark token at $10, so that's $10, and you would pay, like, if you're in the US, I want to say the highest income bracket excluding any state taxes is like 35 to 40%. So you would basically have to pay 300, or sorry, $3.50 or $4 of taxes. So that means if by the, let's say you didn't sell that immediately to cover that tax base, then the price would then have to drop about like 60 to 70% for you to, not have enough money if you sold that asset at the time you had to pay taxes to cover the tax implication. But the thing about that is, you're going to be earning yield. And then that's also a really, large decrease in the price. Like, I'm telling y'all right now,
Don't you claim a loss anyway?
you could eventually, but it wouldn't count. It'd be a
Yeah.
different year though. Like if you were selling next year and you received it this year. But
If you saw.
aside from that, people are worrying that like the price is going to be like $20 and then, it's going to fall down to $5. I'm telling you right now, the Spark price is not going to be $20 anytime soon. I'm sorry if that, or
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
you
it's
can
not.
disagree, but that would give it an insane market cap. And if you think, within the first 6 months, this network somehow going to become as flush with value and money as Ethereum took like what 5-6 years to get to where it is. I mean, things just don't happen overnight. It's just not how it works. So like
No.
these, I think
Well,
you're more likely to see a scenario where you go from $1 to like 33 cents, but that's a much lower US dollar basis that you're working with now rather than a $10 price that falls to 350. Even though it's like relatively the same percentage, the dollar amount's much less, so that means you could source any kind of tax payments from some other kind of income, whether it be your job or maybe stocks that you have or just anything else in general. So I just
well,
want to
let's
put
break
out there,
this.
it's not like you just have to sell your Spark tokens to pay any kind of tax that's going to come.
Yes, and let's break this down a little further now. So the first 15%, it's pretty much a set assumption that you're getting at zero. There's no market price, you're getting at zero. So the only thing you possibly, I still don't even believe, but you could hypothetically be obligated to is income tax on the 3% that you receive every month. So like what Patty's saying here, well, after a month, it would be like, okay, Spark's price is 20 and then it went down. Like that's not likely to happen. Number one, to be so high and then go so down a month after it going live. And it's only 3%. So that means if you had 50,000 XRP, for example, it would only be what? 3% would be 1,500 Spark only. And if that's 50 cents, then that's only $750. So we're not talking crazy amounts of money here that somebody would be obligated to owe. I think there was definitely an extreme exaggeration in some of that. People saying, oh my God, you're going to be underwater if you accept the Spark drop. It's just like kind of ridiculous because the first 15% zero. So that's out of the picture of worrying about income taxes. And say if you did feel like you owed income taxes, and it's not tax advice, not financial advice, it would only be 3% every month. And you have a whole year, like Patty said, to build up all that yield. So, I mean, it's like, we're going to live in fear. It's like, I'm not going to, take this $100,000 job because I got to pay taxes. I mean, that's just kind of ridiculous. Why are we in crypto? Why are we here investing? Most people are more of a high risk if you're in this now anyway. So it's kind of just shocking that there's so much concern about a tax liability when we're in a market like crypto. Do you hear people in Ethereum talking about this? Do you hear anyone in DeFi talking about any of this stuff? No. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
just
just
shocking
weird.
why it
It's
came up.
weird.
It's really
Yeah,
weird.
it is
It
weird.
really is. It's really shocking.
So let me run through some comments
Couple
in
loud
here.
voices who probably won't even be in the Flare community anyway.
Um, yeah, so let me run through some comments just because I really like some of them. So Adam asked, do you two have a background in banking, finance, or tech? I did finance in college, but then I ended up doing healthcare consulting as my job out of school. And then Mickey, you
I'm
were a
just an
sales
avid
guy.
researcher.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've been
avid
in sales
researcher.
and
Yeah.
yeah, avid
So
researcher. Honestly, like what I would have learned I did go to college. What I learned in college back in the early 2000s is not helpful really too much for anything that's going on right now. I found a lot more knowledge and information just researching what's taking place now because things are changing so rapidly. But when it does come to certain finance things, like Patty's great. So that's why we could discuss things with each other. But I just find it more of an advantage just being able to look up the information now than having such a college background. It just doesn't seem to apply as much with the new technology. Yes, it does help on some things, but you just can't get that information from college at the moment.
yeah, I'll add on since, I graduated 3 years ago in May of 2018 from the school that I went to. And, I was debating between doing like, what was it? MIS, which is like Management Information Systems, Finance, and Computer Science. I 100% should have done programming. Looking back on it now, I did learn a lot doing finance, but I also learned a lot of what I know from just researching on the internet and reading books, from people that I thought made sense or, had good reasoning behind, what their thoughts were. Because, there's a bunch of different realms like monetary policy, economic theory, and all this stuff. So, like, you can be taught all these things in school, and the math isn't the hardest in the world that you need to go to school to learn the math. The thing is, though, like computer science is very much a skill that's very difficult or much more difficult to learn on your own. Like whenever I try and I did some programming at my job a little bit, and I had to have like this guy that was a full stack developer helping me like learn the stuff and understand what it all does. But like you can go and find information on your own to learn about finance and how that works. So like that applies to like something like engineering, great college degree, like medical, you have to go to school to learn that. Like learning how to do like medicine on your own is going to be very difficult. So yeah, to me, like finance was great. Definitely not the worst major I should have picked, but there's other things that are like, more hard technical skills that I think could have been better. And obviously they weren't talking about crypto when I was in school. Like we would maybe talk about Bitcoin a couple times, but nothing fully in depth. It was still all traditional finance. I know some of the like better business schools are, they're starting to have finance classes. Like, you saw Gensler taught some at MIT, but like that's your top of the rung school. You may
Yeah,
have
but
like UPenn
mhm.
Wharton or the Chicago Business School as well. Like they're teaching that stuff. There's very little of that going on most of the schools. So
Well, what's interesting is MIT, you could actually go on YouTube
and
and
learn,
listen to
yeah,
the classes that he's taught and see where your knowledge level is. And I guarantee most of us are above the knowledge level of Gensler's MIT course. Listen to some of the students, how they answer and what they say and what they think. And many of us in the community, many people in this community, I think the XRP community is one of the most knowledgeable. And speaking of that, the BIS, as much as we have people who like to go out into left field on conspiracy theories, we have a lot of smart people in the community and that do bring things back to grounded. I think they're much smarter than many of those MIT students that sat through Gensler's class. I've listened to almost probably his whole course. And, I think many in the community would easily be able to take that course and pass with flying colors at like 100, no matter what age you are. So, I mean, I think just in the community, researching in years and spending time learning about this, we're ahead of a lot of those kids who are just going to school now for this. Granted, maybe we don't all have the financial specific backgrounds of stocks and like everything Patty learned in recent days. But when it comes to crypto and blockchain, honestly, the community and everything we put out in the forums and different videos, you could really get a good education of what's coming in the future just by this. And you might not be able to get that in school. Granted, like what Patty said, programming and computer science, I think, yeah, that's a whole nother level though. That I think you definitely need school for.
Yeah,
It's
I
very hard
luckily
to become a
convinced
developer on your own.
one of my brothers to do computer science. So my youngest one
Smart.
is going to be doing that. I was like, dude, you're into gaming, you have to do computer science. Like that's just
Yeah.
it's like it's cuz you just think about the future like we're moving to automation and now we're moving to even automation in finance. So like there's probably a ton of finance jobs that are going to be disrupted. I mean, bank tellers right off the bat. And then, as we can have computer systems building models rather than people, like those people that were doing that are going to start getting cut out. And I mean, that's just one industry. Like all the industries globally are, ripe for disruption as technology increases. So the thing is like how are you have to like continually work at something that you think will be an option for you to have as a career in the future, like every day. That was like the biggest thing I learned getting out of college. I was like, oh, the learning isn't done. And I had this like period getting out where I started my job. I'm like, this is brutal. How do people work like 8 to 10 hours a day and then go and learn more so they can stay ahead of people? But I think like what I've learned, the past 3 years being out, you have to keep learning or at least being up to date on what's changing and knowing when you need to add new skills and things like that. Because a lot of things are going to change. I mean, the only constant at this point is going to be change. And I know we've kind of hit that home a lot that the world is, moving faster and faster and faster. And that, that exponential curve is going to keep going more and more straight up over time until we're just in the thick of it and we have no idea what's happened. So, if you're
Yeah,
spending some time to learn, it's like you're doing a lot more than a ton of people out there. So,
exactly. So it's not just like wasting time on your phone. You're definitely ahead because you've had it right. The exponential growth of the technology is going to leave people behind. And if you're not caught up with everything, you won't be at the forefront to be able to understand those new investment opportunities. Like when Securitize comes out with their mobile app, that's going to be like Robinhood to be able to invest in private securities. Are you going to know about that buying in finance school? Probably not. But if you're paying attention to the community, you would know about it. So just learning in general has to come from more places. And I think communities are really good for learning. And what a community is, let's go into that a little, is kind of changing. So with Flare Network, you're going to actually be a citizen. You have governance rights. You're going to get paid by the network to be a citizen on that network. You earn yield every day just for holding your Spark, and you have governance rights that come with that Spark token ownership. So that's why it's just like, well, why would I throw that away? Yeah, I don't want that. Yeah, I got taxes on it. Forget about it. No, it just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, that's fine if people believe that. I'll take their Spark. I have no problem with that. But it's just like these things are pretty powerful. Like this is what a community is going to evolve to. Like the XRP community was all about research, preparing us, start validating what, digging up all this stuff. But now we're evolving as a community. It's like, okay, Flare is coming. We're going to be citizens. We could participate in yield and DeFi. And I think some people are just going to get left behind here because they're still stuck in 2018. But DeFi is the future. Like it is the future. This is how we're going to generate the most wealth. It's not just sitting around for Moon and then getting off. I mean, hey, you might get wealthy with that, a little wealth, but you'll get very wealthy if you stay and participate in the ecosystem long term.
yeah. And I think Mickey, we're at a good wrapping point. It's about been 50 minutes.
Wow. These
Obviously,
go
guys.
fast.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, our disclaimer, nothing's financial advice. We're just here to educate, talk with you guys and share what we look into. I think it's always helpful to, fact check anything that, we say that you're not sure about and all that stuff. We're not perfect by any means, but we try and, at least have some kind of basis behind the things that we say. Before we sign off, Mickey, I do want to read a few comments that I just enjoyed. So Yoan Tang, he said compound interest, the best way to go to the moon, LOL. I hear that, man. Who knows when the moon's coming, so might as well start working on it. Crypto siege, we must all walk away from the 1990 tax implications mentality. Absolutely. It's a new
Boom,
world.
crypto
It's a new
siege, my
world.
man.
Yeah. Flair Community was in here. He said, I don't want to receive a free pizza if I have to give a slice to someone else. And then I want to say the other one was John was saying, I order a burger at the restaurant instead of steak because I don't want to pay the steak tax. So honestly, great comments from you guys today. And hopefully everybody enjoyed, if you're in the US, your 4th of July weekend, or everybody else is, at least having a good summer and everything. So, yeah, I think that'll wrap it up. This is the DeFi Standard, Patty XRP,
Mickey be fresh.
and we are out. We'll see you guys.